We all know that artificial intelligence is totally changing the game in healthcare, right? I mean, it's diagnosing diseases faster than ever and helping our hospitals run way more efficiently. It really does promise this amazing future of better, faster, more personalized medicine. But as we start to hand over more and more of these critical decisions to these powerful algorithms, we're also exposing ourselves to a new and really insidious kind of threat. It's one that doesn't just break the system, it corrupts it from the inside out.
And look, this isn't some far-off science fiction scenario. This is the reality of a threat we call data poisoning. The whole point isn't to crash the system. It's to corrupt it, silently, embedding these hidden biases and targeted failures that can go completely undetected for months, maybe even years. And the consequences for patient safety? They're devastating. It basically transforms a tool for healing into a potential instrument of harm.
Now, you might be thinking that in this age of big data, with these massive medical data sets containing millions of patient records, a few bad samples would just get diluted, right? It's like a single drop of poison in a giant lake. It should be harmless. But what if that's a dangerously wrong assumption? What if that poison is way more potent than we ever thought? We're about to dive into a counterintuitive truth that's going to change how you think about AI security in healthcare.
You see, our belief in this idea of security by volume is actually a huge blind spot. The sheer size of our datasets, which we always thought was our greatest strength, might actually be the perfect place for this kind of threat to hide. The critical point is this: more data does not mean more safety. So let me ask you a question.
Just think about that for a second. Out of 1 million records, 1 million chest x-rays, 1 million different patient histories, how many poisoned examples would an attacker actually need to sneak in there to teach that AI a malicious new trick, like, say, ignoring a specific type of tumor? Are we talking thousands? Tens of thousands? What's your gut feeling?
The answer is just shockingly small. We're talking about only 100 to 500 malicious samples. And this reveals a really critical principle. The success of an attack like this depends on the absolute number of poisoned samples, not their percentage of the whole dataset. So it doesn't matter if your dataset has 10,000 records or 10 million. A few hundred bad apples are enough to spoil the whole barrel.
Okay, so let's get really clear on what we're talking about here. Data poisoning isn't about just manipulating a single prediction. No, it's about fundamentally altering the model's brain while it's still learning. An attacker injects these carefully crafted pieces of data that basically teach the AI false connections, embedding a hidden backdoor that they can trigger later to cause these huge systematic failures.
This really shows the massive paradigm shift we need to make. We just can't assume that we have security by volume anymore. The new reality is all about security by verification. It's not about how much data you have, it's about whether you can trust every single piece of it. So that leads to the next question. How does an attacker even get this poison into the system in the first place?
Well, the attack surface in healthcare is way bigger than you probably think. Because medical data is being pulled from so many different places, hospitals, labs, clinics, there are tons of entry points for an attacker. And honestly, they often don't even need sophisticated hacking skills to do it.
There are really 3 main ways this can happen. First up, you've got the insider threat. A radiology tech, a data analyst, anyone with routine access to data pipelines can just slowly introduce poison samples over time. Second, the federated backdoor. This is when multiple hospitals collaborate to train an AI, and a single compromised hospital can poison the entire network. And third, what's called the supply chain bomb. An attacker compromises a commercial AI model at the vendor level and then distributes that poison model to dozens, maybe even hundreds of hospitals all at once.
Now this is where things get really tricky. The research calls it the privacy paradox. Regulations like HIPAA and GDPR are obviously crucial for protecting patient data, but they can also make it a lot harder to spot a poisoning attack. For instance, if an attacker is targeting a specific demographic, detecting that pattern would mean you'd have to analyze data across a whole lot of patients. But privacy rules can restrict that kind of analysis, and that creates a blind spot that actually shields the attacker.
And this slide just lays out the stakes. An insider attack could go undetected for 6 months, maybe a year. But for federated or supply chain attacks, detection is extremely difficult. It could take over a year. That is, if it's ever caught at all. And by then, thousands of patients could have been harmed by flawed diagnoses or treatment plans.
Okay, so the threat is real, it's sneaky, and it is tough to spot. What on earth can we do about it? Well, we can't just build taller walls around our data. We need to build what you could call a digital immune system. And that means having a multi-layered defense framework that brings together technology, policy, and design.
The first layer is all about spotting the threat early.
Now, this isn't about manually checking every single data point. That's impossible. It's about building systems that are constantly auditing the AI's performance and, this is the key part, analyzing disagreements between different AI models to flag suspicious patterns before they can cause widespread harm.
The second layer is about actively fighting back. This involves some advanced techniques like Byzantine robust aggregation. The easiest way to think about it is like a system of checks and balances for AI. It helps secure those networks where multiple hospitals are collaborating on training, and it makes it much, much harder for one bad actor to corrupt the whole system.
But look, technology alone isn't going to cut it. The third layer is all about process. This means making adversarial testing a mandatory part of AI validation, deploying new models in stages to limit the blast radius if something goes wrong, and having clear, well-rehearsed incident response plans for when an attack is suspected.
And finally, we get to the foundation of it all. This is about building safer AI from the ground up. This means designing models with built-in constraints based on actual medical knowledge, which makes them inherently more resilient to crazy or malicious outputs. And it means implementing really rigorous security vetting for any third-party models or data you use.
So one really promising active defense strategy that the research mentions is something called the Medley framework. Instead of relying on just one AI, Medley uses a whole diverse team of models. Normally, you want your models to agree, but Medley does the opposite. It specifically looks for systematic disagreements. When one model starts behaving differently from the others, especially for a specific group of patients, it raises a huge red flag. It's a brilliant flip. It takes what's usually seen as a bug, model disagreement, and turns it into a powerful security feature.
And this brings us to a really critical question, doesn't it? In our race to build the most powerful, the most performant AIs, are we accidentally sacrificing safety and trust? The threat of data poisoning shows that we need to do more than just build intelligent systems. We need to build systems that are resilient, that are transparent, and that are truly worthy of the incredible trust we're placing in them. The challenge for all of us now is to make sure we're building the future of healthcare on a foundation of security, not just speed.